Hey everyone, I wanted to touch real quick on something that I've been watching for probably the better part of 20 years at this point. And I think back when I started watching it, it was my first inkling that things are not completely as they seem or as we're told in terms of like the government and them having our best interest at heart and us voting them in to take care of our country and our best interests. So the thing that really kind of started opening my eyes to all of this was how they keep raising the debt ceiling to keep the government from shutting down. Um, from what I recall, going way back, when I really started paying attention to it was when they were raising the debt ceiling because they needed more money in order to support the war effort over in Iraq and Afghanistan so that we could keep things going. And back then, I mean, they had my support to an extent just because it seemed like a noble cause and it seemed like that's what we needed to do. But the fact that we continually increase the debt ceiling has become more and more of an issue to me because I've been paying more attention to it, and I've, I guess, done enough research to really understand some of the implications as a result of them increasing the debt ceiling each year. You don't ever really hear anybody talk about it until it comes time to raise the debt ceiling to keep the government from shutting down. Then they say, oh, we got to raise the debt ceiling, and somebody opposes it, and then they turn it into that person's evil because they're literally going to be cutting some people's paychecks short, which I don't necessarily agree with doing, but at the same time, it's proof that for whatever reason, these people can't figure out how to balance a budget, and these people are the ones that are supposedly running and doing what's best for our country. So I just wanted to start with all that because for the longest time, I wanted to believe that these people had mine and our country's best interest at heart. But when I take a look at these numbers and think about how things have played out since I started watching all this stuff, it's almost blatantly obvious to me at this point that we've got some serious problems in our country. And I don't like thinking or talking about it because it stresses me out. But we need to start addressing this before it becomes an even bigger issue. And I guess that's why I'm making this video. Some of you guys may disagree with me, and that's perfectly fine. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on in terms of politics. This affects both sides. And it's more of I think, a human or culture thing at this point instead of a politics thing. Having said that, I feel like politics has weaseled its way into so many aspects of our life that we almost can't hardly talk about anything without getting political. So when people say something to the effect of, oh, well, now you're just getting political, I really don't care for that comment because unfortunately that's what we got to do anymore to really try to affect any kind of positive change. And I don't like paying attention to it because it does stress me out. I think there's a lot of morons in government. I think there's a lot of crooked people. And I think there's a lot of the combination. I think there are some good people in government, but unfortunately, with the way things are, we don't know if they're actually good until they get in and start making decisions and making changes. Because from my perspective, from what I've seen, people will say anything and promise anything to get elected, but as soon as they get in there, they start doing whatever it is that they decide they want to do. Whoever's in their pockets wants them to do is actually what they're doing, as far as I'm concerned. Anyways, getting all that through and aside, I want you guys to take a look at this. I'm going to kind of break it down a little bit, take it for what it's worth. But if this is news to you, maybe you need to share this information with some people you know, because apparently it'll be news to them too. So, yeah, let's take a look. All right, so what we're looking at here is the usdebtclock.org. It looks official, so it's got to be official, right? One of the first things I want to point out to you guys is, at least according to this thing, our current population in the U.S. is 332 million. And as of right now, we've got 125 million taxpayers, which is less than half of the population. So you hear everybody talking about our current U.S. national debt, which over here we've got a whopping 30 trillion, which is just clicking up as time goes on. And I mean, this isn't exactly anything new or interesting, I guess. They don't hide that number or anything. So, I think it is what it is. The part that gets me is the fact that we've got 125 million taxpayers and we've got $30 trillion in debt. So if we had whoever debtors who own all of our debt at this point just decided they wanted payment, like right now, or wanted us to pay it off, that would mean each and every single one of us taxpayers would owe somewhere in the area of $240,000, $250,000. So that's where I guess I want to bring this up to you guys, because to me it's very concerning that we're at that point. I mean, I'm certainly not in a situation or a position to be able to go and pay that off. I got plenty of my own personal debt that I've accumulated as a result of buying a house and stuff like that, right? So I'm not having any problems paying my debt, but I'm not in a position to be paying debt that the government decided to sign for me. Another thing I wanted to point out was down here on our U.S. total debt. So if we look up here, up at the top, up in this area, when I hover over it, it says U.S. total debt includes household, business, state and local governments, financial institutions, and the federal government. So this is like all of the debt total that the United States has. So we're at $90 trillion in debt. So granted, only a third of that, I guess, is what is owed through the government, but that goes to show that we've got $60 trillion in outstanding debt, and we've only got less than half of our population in a position to be paying taxes. So does that mean that less than half of our population is making an income to pay on our U.S. total debt? I don't know that for sure, but it does make me wonder. And if that is the case, then the people who are the taxpayers, who each owe $250,000 now, on top of it all, would owe approximately $750,000. So that's just, granted, it's a blanket term, right? I mean, not everybody's going to owe that or anything like that, but I do want to at least get this in front of you guys so you guys can understand, I guess, just the sheer gravity of where we're at. Something else that's cool with this debt clock is that we can actually turn back time and look at where things were to kind of get an idea of how far things have come, right? So like I said, I started watching all of this stuff about 20 years ago, so we're going to go back to 2000 and get an idea of where things were then. On this day back in 2000, our U.S. national debt was a whopping $5 trillion, so less than a quarter of what it is now. And our U.S. total debt was $25 trillion, so it was less than our national debt at this point. And let's see here, do we have our taxpayers? So we had, our income taxpayers, we had 103 million. So we've only increased our taxpayers by 25 million, and our total debt is increased 5-6-fold. So, just some food for thought there, guys. And another thing that's kind of sketchy and scary, but we can look into the future with the way rates are right now. So let's take a look at that. So we're currently at 30 trillion in U.S. national debt, right? So we will check out 2026, and it's half again higher in 4 years. So, and at that point, our debt per taxpayer is already at $334,000. So it's over $100,000 more than it is right now in 4 years. So, yeah, guys, the reason I wanted to bring this to you guys' attention, as I said, is just because, in our household, it's kind of a basic thing to balance a budget, right? If we don't do that, then we get into debt that we can't pay for, and we got to file for bankruptcy and all that stuff, right? Well, at this point, with the way the government's been run, we haven't done anything to resolve this issue. And as you can see, it's going to get us into a world of hurt way quicker, I think, than anybody wants to admit or say. So take it for what it's worth, but this is something that we probably need to put in some focus on here before too long. There's a fire